Hello and welcome to your next Words Their Way module. In this module, we will discuss the formal way to assess within Words Their Way. The tool that we will use for this is called the Qualitative Spelling Inventory, or specifically the Elementary Spelling Inventory for your level. This is the one required Words Their Way benchmark for grades 3 through 6. Grades 3 and 4 will use it for determining groups for Tier 1 instruction. Grades 5 and 6 will use it to determine intervention students. In addition to use for the classroom teachers, the reading resource teachers could also use this as a part of their criteria for accepting students into their programs. This test will be administered in the fall, the winter, and the spring. Again, this is the required test for all students in grades 3 through 6. The qualitative spelling inventory can be found on page 323 of the PD book. It is important to note that there are 3 spelling inventories. There's the elementary spelling inventory we will be given. There is the upper elementary spelling inventory that you could use for your higher spellers if they are very successful on the elementary spelling inventory. And then there's also one for the primary level as well that we will not utilize. But the main one that everybody will need to give is the elementary spelling inventory. This can also be found in the PD toolkit, which you guys have access to. So when you go there, probably the easiest thing to do, you can go to the assessment section and you could scroll through and find it, but I would just type in elementary inventory, elementary spelling inventory, and then it'll come up right there, and you'll see that it has directions for it as well. So within, like I said, it gives the directions for administering the inventory. The actual spelling test is right here, and you're going to give that honestly. It's like a traditional spelling test. We use the information much more differently than we do traditional spelling, but the administration of the test is very similar. And then the rest of it is going to show you how you analyze the assessment. Let me go back here. Okay, so some things before we get into administering the elementary spelling inventory, there's some things I want you to know. First, there's a high correlation between the QSI, which again is just the elementary spelling inventory, it's the same thing, and standardized testing. So I know standardized testing is important and we are concerned that we want to make sure that our programs and instruction get our kids ready for that standardized testing. And research shows that this QSI is a great tool for that. As you're administering the assessment, if students miss 5 words in a row, you may discontinue testing because you have enough information in order to figure out their spelling stage. So it's not necessary for them to finish the test and to get them frustrated because there's multiple words that they don't know how to spell. Just use your personal judgment, your professional judgment on that to make that decision. If a student spells more than 20 words correctly on this assessment, then you could also give them the upper level spelling inventory to get more detailed information. That part is up to you. That part is not required from a district standpoint. The only requirement is the elementary spelling inventory. Okay, so administering the inventory. So directions can be found in the PD book on page 29. I would definitely refer to that page and read over that for more information. And then, as I mentioned before, directions can be found on that Pearson website, on that PD Pearson website, and it looks like this. So pretty straightforward here, guys, I'm going to be honest. Make sure that students do not study the words in advance. We do not want that, but also assure them that this is not for a grade, it's only for you to figure out what stage of spelling development that they are in. They do give a possible script right here for you to use with the students. So as you give the assessment, you are, again, going to give it like a traditional test. The words are right here, 1 through 25 words. You'll say the word once, say the word twice. Use it in a sentence if you think the sentence is helpful. Sometimes the sentences, for some students, could be distracting, but for the most part, the sentences should be said so that the student can consider the word in context. So do the first word, then go to the second word, do the same thing. Say it twice, use it in a sentence. They write it down on their paper. And they're just going to do this on regular notebook paper. They just number from 1 to 25. Again, just like they would do for a traditional spelling test. Okay, and I believe that about covers administering the test. Again, this is a test that you'll give in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring so that we can monitor their overall progress. You could also give this test in small groups or during whole group instruction. You have the freedom to choose the setting for the test that you think works best for your students. Okay, so you've given the test, now scoring and analyzing the inventory. The tool that everybody will use to score and analyze the inventory is called the Feature Guide for QSI. Looks like this document here on the right-hand side of the page. It is more than just a score. That's why we're not going to grade it like a traditional spelling test. We want to know what are the spelling patterns that our kids are using but confusing, and what stage does that put them in. We're not looking for they got 22 out of 25 or they got 78%. That does not give us the information that we need. The information on this assessment is in your PD book on page 29 and 31. I would definitely refer to and read over those pages. Feature Guide Master is on page 324. So this document on the right-hand side of the slide is on page 324, as well as in the PD toolkit. Okay, so let me show you an example of what this looks like. So what you're going to do is you're going to take their notebook paper that they took the spelling test on, and then have a blank copy of this document for every student. Fill out their information at the top. And then as you see, the words from the test are along the left-hand side of the page, and the spelling of them is filled in the chart. So what you're going to do, let's use the first word as an example, the word bed. Put a check mark, or you can highlight with a highlighter if you prefer, if they got that part of the word correct. So if they spelled B-E-D, spell bed, B-E-D, put a check mark next to each one of those letters. Next one, ship. Let's say that they spelled that correctly, so put a check mark next to S-H, next to I, and next to P. So keep doing that till you get down to, let me go to the word bright as a different example because they misspelled bright. So this student got BR correctly, so you see the check mark. However, they spelled it, I know you didn't see their original test, but they spelled it B-R-I-T-E. So with the E at the end, making that vowel long. Some people call it bossy E or evil E, but they spelled it incorrectly. So they did not use IGH. So they did not get a check mark. Write down what they did, how they did spell it, so you have that information of what are they using but confusing. They attempted to use a correct pattern for that word, but they used it incorrectly. You will notice that some words do not have all of the letters in this chart. So for example, the word spoil, number 11 there, they have SP and OI, but they don't have L. So just know that that was intentional, that they didn't check every single letter within the word when looking at the feature points. And here's what I mean by that. If you go along the right-hand side of the page, you see feature points. They get points for spelling each one of these patterns or features correctly in the word. So in the word bed, they had B correct, D correct, and E correct. So they get 3 points. That's why they have a 3 right there. Let's go down to the word bright. Since they misspelled that one, they got BR correct, but not the IGH. So 2 possible features there, but they only got 1 correct. So you'll see a 1 reflected in that column to the right. Okay? And then you'll see that they did not get the point for spelling it correct, which is the last column, words spelled correctly. Give them 1 point if they spelled it correctly, no points if they spelled it incorrectly. So they do get points for spelling correctly, and they get points for having the features or the patterns correct in the words. So after you have all that done, you'll add up this column, put the total there. It's 9 for this particular student. That total goes up to the top, right up here where it says words spelled correctly. Add up this column. They got 43 points. That goes in feature points. Add those 2 numbers together and you get a total score of 52 out of 87. But again, the score is not what we care the most about. What's going to tell you the spelling stage is this. You're going to add up the totals of all the columns here as well. So for the digraphs, they got 6 out of 6 correct. For the blends, they got 7 out of 7. So you're going to add up all of those. If you did end up not having the students take all of or spell all the words, adjust these totals at the bottom. So what you then do is find the first column where a student misses 2 of the total. So 7 out of 7, 5 out of 5, 6 out of 6, 7 out of 7, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 7. Right here is where they missed 2 words. So you're going to go up that column and look in the shaded section. They're somewhere in the middle to late within word patterns. On this document, they said late within word patterns. I would go and they suggest it is often better to step back to a previous or go to the lower level. So they would go to middle within word patterns because it's not going to hurt them to go back and do those sorts and do that instruction just to make sure that they have that. So this student I would put in the middle within word pattern book. Depending on, I would also though compare that to their reading and writing. Maybe their reading and writing shows that they actually do know a lot of those middle within word pattern features. So then you could put them into the late one if you felt like that was what was best for the student. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is if a student uses 2 possibilities for spelling a word, then give them credit for the feature but not for spelling the word correctly. An example would be if they have TRAINE for train, they have the AI, give them a feature point for that, but they would not receive the point for spelling the word correctly. Okay, determining their stage. Don't overthink what early, middle, or late stage a student is in. Again, go lower as opposed to higher and compare the QSI, the inventory, the test, to the reading and writing. If you do want more information on what stage stage they're in as far as early, middle, and late, you can refer to that specific stage book. So if it's syllables and affixes, look in that. There's a chart in there that helps you with that. And that might help you. You can also look in the PD book. In that section, like there's chapters in the book that cover syllables and affixes within words, etc. And you can look within that if you really want some more information. But again, don't spend too much time on determining whether it's early, middle, or late. Go lower as opposed to go higher and just roll with it because you can always move them to a different group later. Okay, I think we're going to stop here on this. I'm actually going to put grouping students for instruction in the next module because we're almost out of time for this module since I'm using Screencast-O-Matic and we have to have a 15-minute amount of time to do this. So I will stop here and thank you for listening.